back with you. Welcome back to Out of the Darkness. I am your host, Q, and we have our distinguished guest, stuffing his face, sorry, Mr. the Honorable Timothy Miller, Esquire, and Soder here with us also. Sorry, guys, we have been going through a lot of changes. Changing things around and booming things up a little bit over on this end. Welcome back. So we have not been with you for a couple of weeks, but it's exciting to be back. A lot going on. So we're going to jump into that stuff, but just to get things rolling again, welcome to Out of the Darkness. I am Q. If you are joining us and you have not joined us before, make sure you subscribe. And we've got a lot of things to talk about. I just kind of want to jump right into it because we've got a lot of things to discuss and to go over. Man, what an exciting time to be alive. I'm sorry, the Honorable, and I say that, Miller, Esquire, guys, we got a lot going on. Sorry, guys, we have been. Tim, I definitely wanted to take a couple minutes and let you kind of tell us, because last time we visited, you were getting ready for your annual for a couple weeks, but it's exciting to be back. Get together. A lot going on. We out here going to jump into that stuff. Always look forward to get things. And you were running into a little bit of trouble. So tell us give us an update. How did that all go? And you have not joined us before.
Well,
make sure you subscribe.
Something interesting happened in the last couple weeks that I think should be a concern for everyone. I'm dropping my monitor. It's a little bit delayed. We'll work on that for next week. So I have, as you said, I have an annual event.
I'm sorry, and I say that, Miller.
It's normally at a winery in the area. We have these farm wineries in rural Minnesota, really nice. They grow vineyards out here and they make their own wines. This one's local. They win awards with their wines. So I have an event there each year. And I have for the past 4 years, so this would have been year number 5.
Get together.
Well, I did a little bit something different. I have a special guest every single year, maybe a couple of them.
Running into a little bit of trouble. So tell us give us an update. How did that all go?
This year I had State Representative Steve Drazkowski. He's been there before. Technical difficulties here. I apologize. But this year, it's a little bit unique. He has been taking the lead on work addressing some of the now confirmed campaign violations from U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Used to be State Representative Ilhan Omar back then. And that's precipitated some other investigations. So a lot of people out here have told me, hey, what are we doing to address some of the things that she's doing? And I said, well, I have the guy who will talk about that. So I invited him, and I knew it might draw a little extra attention. That's actually a campaign event. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. The owners of the winery got a series of phone calls, emails, and then on social media, they were being bashed, being called all sorts of names because they were having me and Steve Drazkowski there. Now, I was just renting the place. I've done it, like I said, 4 previous years. But I sat down with the owner and said, listen, I don't want to drag you into this sort of thing. I'll move the event. So we moved it to an American Legion. You know, veterans aren't going to mess with these shenanigans. Well, keeping this as short as possible, they were contacted by one of these radicals and were threatened that they were going to be reported up the system and they were going to lose their charter if I had my event there. Now, here's where the truth and the falsehood lies. An American Legion is a nonprofit, a 501c3, so it cannot endorse a candidate, politician, or anything like that. So if they were to host an event for me, then that would be a violation. But they weren't doing that. The American Legions out here, as I'm sure everywhere else, you can just rent for events, for a wedding, graduation, birthday party, all sorts of reasons. They have space you can rent. So I was renting that. But they were receiving quite a bit of heat from these people. And they too decided that this probably wasn't a good idea. So I ended up having the event in a city park. You can't toss me out of a city park, as best I know. When we finally did that, all the previous advertising had been through social media and stuff. On this final event in the city park, we just did word of mouth, email, phone calls, that sort of thing, because these people we thought would act up again. We had a great turnout at over 80 people, which is a huge turnout for one of my events. And it was a great night had by all. Now, what I think we should probably talk about for a couple minutes is I think this is the sort of thing we're going to be seeing in this upcoming campaign season. Excuse me. We had people acting belligerently towards businesses in the community, effectively saying boycott this place or trying to shut them down, simply because myself and a fellow Republican was going to be having an event there. That's a problem, and I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to address it here more in the future, but that's basically what happened.
Wow. So how did it go? How did it end up? So you had the event at the park, big success from what from everything that I have heard and seen. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
You can't keep a good man down.
Well, I had told people I'm not going to back down. I didn't want to put these businesses and keep them in the middle, put them in the firing line. And so I backed away from them, but I was not going to back down. We can't do that. We have to stand up to this bullying, or more is going to happen.
Sure. So I mean, so let's talk about that. So, there's a lot of things to discuss. And you and I have talked this week. And obviously, Minnesota is kind of in the national spotlight right now for some of our elected officials, and you mentioned Elon Omar, and we'll get into talking a little bit about that. But that's something that we've been talking a lot about lately, and that's this stray away from civility. I mean, it's getting really frustrating because, I mean, at what point, since when did we as humans have to agree with each other on everything in order to be civil and to respect each other as human beings and respect each other's right to be, in my opinion, wrong or right, whichever one. I mean, but we can still respect each other as human beings. There's a certain basic level of respect. And it's so unfortunate to see, this kind of devolving, into this. I don't know. Can we come back from this? I mean, is there any return back to civility? And if so, how does it happen? Hillary Clinton said famously a year ago that there would only be a return to civility if the Democrats got the White House back. Is that really what it's going to take, Tim?
Yeah. So no, I think what we need to look at here, there were two things that were kind of happening that need to be noted as being different. Number one, they were saying that myself and especially Representative Steve Jaskowski was coming with a message of hate, division. He's a radical. They were throwing all these things out. So first of all, the reality is that isn't true. Representative Steve Jaskowski is one of the most highly respected members in the Minnesota House by both Republicans and Democrats. People don't always agree with him because he shows leadership. He's bold, but that's what we want in our elected officials. But he speaks the truth. He speaks from the heart. He doesn't play games. He's a straight shooter. Now, so that was a mischaracterization, but let's say it was accurate. They still shouldn't be shutting down the message. He's not doing anything illegal. We're, if you will, bringing it to its core. We're peacefully assembling and action saying we're not going to have that. I know that one of the leaders of the gang that were trying to shut us down, his message to a friend of mine was, "This is not going to happen on my watch." What's not going to happen on your watch? The people are going people are going to talk about their political beliefs that are different from yours. That's startling to me.
Yeah.
And you know, let me make one more quick point, and then I'll stop. I'm in rural Minnesota. You know, this is not the hotbed. This is not New York City. We're not in Manhattan. We're not in Washington, D.C., whatever you might want to say. And so some people can say, well, you know, how big of a deal is this? Understand that the group of people that did this was only about 10 people, and they shut down the voice of 2 elected members 2 different times. Only 10 people were able to do that by saying boycott the place and calling these people all sorts of names.
Wait.
That's a real problem.
You got shut down over 10 people?
Yeah. But here's the deal, like the winery that's, you know, a little bit easier to explain the situation for them. They're a small business. That weekend, they had an 80% loss in business from the weekend before. Now, there's different factors. It's a small business. Maybe it wasn't directly this. But the owner had said, and Tim, I can't afford to take this chance, because power of social media, they were going out everywhere and telling people to boycott his business.
Wow.
I mean, I guess legally it's within their right to do that, but there's problems here.
Well, you know, it's extremely frustrating to me, and it's frustrating on a lot of different fronts. The main thing being that you don't see conservatives threaten to shut people down or shut down their ability to speak, and that's because it goes against everything that we truly believe, right? But the interesting part to me is that historically the Democrats were always the party that they were for the small business owner, right? They were for small business. They were for small. Well, the DFL really pushes that here, but they're willing to destroy a small business simply for having an elected official, not endorsing an elected official, but simply having an elected official there. But we're seeing more and more of this, and the problem is the more and more that they're allowed to get away with this crap, the worse it's going to be. You know, we're dealing with this on a small level, you know, with our local official, you being and I'm not saying small, but you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But it's a microcosm of what we're seeing in America right now. I mean, you know, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that, you know, I feel terrible that in my home state of Texas, that we had this terrible tragedy yesterday in El Paso, and I always hate it because it's classless, and it is evil for the fact that these people, you've campaigned, but they can't wait until the families have even gotten a chance to grieve. Whose dog is that?
Not mine.
Okay. So, but they can't even let these families grieve before they start to turn it into a political stump speech. I mean, you have people like Robert Francis over there in Texas, who's failing in the polls, has like a 0.000% chance of actually getting the nomination, but he wants to come out and call the president a racist. So let me get this straight. So you're going to tell me that that white men are the problem with America, right? Okay. So what's the solution?
Kill all whites.
Eradicate. I actually had someone tell me today, eradicate white people. So what they would suggest is that they want to no. This is the crazy part. These people, we have to return back to a place where we can actually think things out. So these people's solution is to split America into 3 parts. The blacks get their part, the whites get their part, and the Hispanics get their part. That's an actual solution that's being floated around amongst I don't know if you call them subgroups of Twitter, whatever it might be. So you're telling me that the way to fix this is through segregation. We tried
Who
that
gets
once
what where?
and it didn't work.
Like, do the white people get Minnesota, or
No, but of course,
we get Harlem?
hey, the black people don't want it. So,
Hey,
but
then why
no,
are you here?
well, you know what? I came during the summertime and it was really nice. It was a lot cooler than Texas. I didn't expect that winter was going to be quite as cold as what it actually was. I was duped. So, but guys, the thing that gets me is this: we've devolved so much so that the Democrats are actually showing people who they really are. They are segregationists at heart, and they're literally telling people that white people are the problem. And in order to fix this, we are going to have to get back to the place where white people are put in their place. And this is an accepted message on mainstream media that white people are the problem. We can't say that well, yeah, I agree that some people did a
You agree
terrible
that
thing.
white people are the problem,
But
buddy?
if we're going to borrow an expression from Elon Omar, some people did something, right, Tim?
That's right.
But because of that, now the solution is what? And I want to get to because we want to talk about actual solutions, and I'm sure not all of us agree on what the solution would be. But now the solution is that we want to eradicate whites. That's going to fix the terrorism, the local terrorism, or the homegrown terrorism issue. Even though we've had blacks killing blacks at an historic rate in Chicago and other major cities. But we're not going to talk about that because Black lives only matter when their votes come time for election time. And that's what these people continue to show me. Black lives don't matter to them. If Black lives matter to them, they would be given the same amount of attention to the black people killing other black people in Chicago as they're giving to the people who were slain and killed in Dayton and in El Paso. But they say they want to fix it. So they want to fix it by getting rid of the guns for the people who are actually law-abiding citizens. So we're going to make a law to fix a law. So, Tim, I'm not going to give you too much crap just because, you've had a triumphant week. But I know that because you have come back from your triumphant event, there's no way I can get you down. So I can poke you a little bit harder than what I normally poke you. But tell me this, sir, as an elected official, what's the fix? What is the fix for these situations?
Well, I have to back up just a little half a step here. So when you hear something in politics, you need to put on the filter of what am I hearing, but what are they trying to do? Okay. So the reason why there is, if you will, the war on white guys, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, but this message that the way to make everything better is to go after the white guys is because numbers wise, we're in the majority, right? Now, I'm not saying we all agree with each other and there's some united front majority, but I mean, just when you describe a white guy, there's affluence there's connectivity, there's all these different things, and it's very quantifiable, very symbolic, and it's the opposite of being a minority. So you place all the blame on that and get the cage rattled and get things talking about that way, and it distracts you from the issues. So how do you deal with it? Well, you do things like what President Trump did in this last week or so. Now, I haven't read the story closely, but like in Baltimore, where he just swung back. He didn't take it. He said, look, this is a liberal problem.
I get that, but we've seen a lot of shootings, a lot of of these acts of violence, and I want to be careful not to use these incendiary terms that we're hearing so much from the MSM right now. But what is the fix? I mean, obviously we're having issues. I mean, people walking into a Walmart and opening fire. That's not something that's that we can sit back and accept. So what is the fix? Soder, you're always good for a level-headed argument or a level-headed um, response. So
All right.
what is the fix?
A gun in every hand and a round in every chamber. That's the fix.
So do you really honestly believe that giving guns to everyone is going to stop this from happening?
I think the possibility of okay, so there's two different parts of it. One is there's a high risk that someone is going to shoot back. So for instance, this gunman in El Paso, you'd walk into a Walmart, start shooting, and immediately someone could respond. And that has the effect of it just stops right there. If someone can respond right away, one or two people might die until the response can come, but you don't have this problem of lots of people dying before there's a response because there's so few people with guns in this society.
What makes you think that you can stop bad guys from doing bad things?
I'm not saying that.
No, but that was the initial, if you will, question from you. What is it going to take to stop this?
Well, you can't.
How are we going to stop them?
You can't stop someone who's intent on doing evil. It's just you can't stop them from starting. You can stop them yourself.
So what's the difference? What's the difference between us and other countries? I mean, you don't hear about these types of events taking place in so many countries. So what is the difference?
Happened in England, happened in France, it's happened down in Asia.
It doesn't happen. I mean, we're seeing these things like a couple times. I mean, once a month almost. We're seeing these large scale shootings. So,
I mean, what do you see in the UK? You see acid attacks, you see knife attacks, bat attacks, cricket attacks. I mean, people are going to attack people. It's just a fact of life, and people have to accept that that's going to happen.
Do I think Go ahead.
Okay. And the best way to respond to that is to protect yourself, is to be able to have the tools to be able to do that. Right now in the United States, the ability for someone to do that is severely hampered. And that, I think, needs to change. So to answer the question, two things I think need to happen. One,
you're being vague, Soder. Come on now.
Okay, fine.
Something needs to change. So we're not.
Something
we're
needs
not,
to
we're not
change.
here.
We all need to accept that bad is going to happen. That we can't stop it from happening in the first place, and we need to take the responsibility for our own protection. Those two things I think need to happen. How can you stop someone from shooting? You can't. It just can't be done.
Well, I'm going to start going into psychology and sociology, and I don't belong there. So I just want to make reference and kind of steer this a little bit. We have an affluent society. We have lots of discretionary time, lots of discretionary money. We have lots of things that aren't necessarily always the case in other countries. And I can't get into the mind of someone who wants to go and shoot up a whole bunch of people because it's irrational. And if you try to make it rational, you can't. But I do think that there is something culturally going on that brings people to the point that they think they want to do this. Like, I would love to see a documentary or a study or something on, where they look at the minds of all these different people, and are they sociopathic? Are they psychopathic? what exactly drives a person to say, you know what, I'm going to arm up and I'm going to take a bunch of people out? It the progression to where you get there, it's illogical. So I'd love to know what happens there.
Well,
But I don't think on the back end you can do anything, if you will, to get them to stop it. You know, the people that say gun control, it's an easy pushback, because what are you going to literally get rid of every single gun? What's the logic here? And
well, I mean, there are some people. I'm playing the devil's advocate. You guys both know where
yeah,
I stand, and I think everyone
yeah,
that watches this show with any regularity knows where I stand. But that's what I'm hearing. If I turn on CNN right now, or I turn on MSNBC right now, I'm going to hear people saying we need common sense gun control. We need comprehensive background checks. We need to close the gun show loopholes.
the Q,
We, huh?
Q, it's not what they're saying. What are they trying to accomplish?
So okay, but let's have that discussion, because there are a lot of people that watch this show that are not going to hear the truth anywhere else. And the
Mhm.
truth of the matter is that in the cities that have the toughest gun control laws, those cities, people are being slain every single day. They
That's
might not
right.
have the mass shootings per se. They might have the guy walking into the church and opening up a 30-round clip. But what they do have is they have people that are going around victimizing people on a daily basis. They have people going up and shooting grandmas and kids catching stray bullets. You've got kids in Chicago right now that are having to sit down on the floor in front of the couch and watch TV so they don't catch a drive-by bullet while they're sitting there watching SpongeBob. I mean, so let's have a legitimate conversation about this, because we have answers. I believe that the conservative answer to these situations is less government and being honest. We have a mainstream media right now that's talking about how white men and Christians and Republicans are the ones responsible and have to carry the blame for this. But when Obama was in office, did we have any less or any fewer mass shootings? So what was the answer then?
So Q, from a great movie from the past, I don't know that you can handle the truth. Now you can't. I'm being a little bit flippant there, but I wanted to pivot a little bit. In my opinion, one of the primary conversations that we don't have in our society is the breakdown of some of our institutions that established us as a society. Number one on that is the family. The family institution has deconstructed it, has broken down. Now it's not as simple as to make a connection where, well, he was raised by a single mom. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the focus of the family being the root dynamic to help raise a child into a mature adult. Now, in the past, everything wasn't perfect. Was there lots of bad things that happened? Absolutely. Okay. But we do not have that family dynamic in our society right now to raise people to be mature, productive citizens. That's why you're seeing in public schools they have a lot more social workers. Why the teachers say we spend more time teaching kids how to be people instead of teaching them reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay, we're seeing all these dynamics, what's happening, but no one wants to talk about that. Maybe because they aren't thinking of it. Okay, granted. But I think if we have that hard discussion, now you answer me. How do we reestablish and redevelop a strong family unit? How do you do that?
Well, that's a great discussion and a great. I'd love to have that discussion, because we just came out of a major. You brought it up, so I'll talk about it. This situation in Baltimore, where the president masterfully. Now, I'm not a Trump. I do support our president. Okay. Um, I tend to think that our president is doing a good job. Do I agree with everything he does? No, I do not. I don't agree with everything he does. I'll say, for one, the bump stock ban, I had a problem with it. You cannot attribute evil attributes to an inanimate object, right? You can't assume that because someone has a bump stock that they are going to go out and do terrible things, because the majority of people who own bump stocks were law-abiding citizens that were just using them to go out and enjoy their pastime. So I had a major issue with the ban on the bump stocks and a few other things, but we won't get into that. But let's talk about Baltimore for a second here. We're talking about a city by which 70 to 75% of the minority children in this city are being raised in single-parent households. Okay. You're going to have, when you have a mother, and I'm not going to get into this thing where, well, they're just living off of welfare. That's bullcrap. That's not the case in all situations. And in most situations, it's not. The bigger issue in a lot of those situations is that you have a mother who's working 2 and 3 jobs to provide for her family, and the kids are coming home to an empty house, and they're essentially trying to raise themselves. And who's raising them? The streets are raising them. And they don't have positive influences around them. And so when that happens, and then you also look at they found 5 high schools in Baltimore, and they couldn't find a single kid in that high school who was proficient in reading and math. Not a single kid. So when you have a kid who doesn't have parents at home and who doesn't have and is illiterate, let me ask you, what do you expect? What do you expect to happen? What options does that kid really have in life when that's the case? And we're sending thousands, hundreds, millions, billions of dollars that we're spending on these school systems, and these children are still not proficient in reading and math. So what options do they truly have? But you know what? And I'm gonna say it. I know you can't say it, Tim, but I'm gonna say it. I feel like it's by design. I feel it's by design, because I feel like an illiterate voting pool and an illiterate class of people is a controllable class of people. And I feel like you're going to continue to get the votes. You're going to continue to get put in office. And you know what? I guarantee the schools that Mr. Cummings sent his kids to, I bet you the kids were proficient in reading and math there. So we're
private school too.
Huh?
Private school too.
Oh, I'm assuming so. I'm assuming so. But I guarantee you they can read. I guarantee that they can do math. I guarantee that they're literate. So I'm having a major issue with the fact that we're held in the bag. We need to be on the offensive. I'm sick of this Republican Party that's going out there that's wanting to be gentlemanly about this thing, and they're just we don't want to get in the mud. No. The fight was taken to the mud, and right now we're dealing with narratives that are being put out there that they're false. They're completely false. There is nothing about the conservative agenda or conservative beliefs or the conservative platform that leads to people going out and shooting each other. Nothing about it at all. Because as a conservative, I believe that everyone has a right to live. I believe that life, in the sanctity of life, and I think all 3 of us would agree with that, correct?
Correct.
My grandmother taught me you never take anything from somebody you can't give back. And so we don't believe in taking life away. We don't believe in doing things to someone that infringes upon their rights. And so for us to sit back and to allow them to paint these people as being Trump supporting, MAGA hat wearing, right wing, alt-right, white nationalist, whatever you want to call them, and that's our problem. We have to meet them in the mud where they're at. And we've got to call BS. But we've also got to be ready to give some actual solutions to this, because we're being painted in a light, and we're being branded right now. And I'm sorry, but I don't think we're going to be able to come back from this if we don't start to do a better job of branding ourselves. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go on a rant, but I'm just...
Hey, No, it's good, buddy. It's good. Maybe we should skip more weeks.
That's funny.
So, but with that being said, so Tim, tell me, man. So, what is the solution? Because we're spending the money on the school, so we're seeing this huge rise in or the decline of the nuclear family, and it's not just in minority households; it's across the board. I mean, I think the minority households. I mean, once upon a time, the black family was one of the strongest nuclear family units
That's
in
right.
America.
Yep.
And that has digressed at a rapid stage. And I believe that the welfare system, when you incentivize women to not
Single.
marry
Yep.
the father of their children, and they'll get more money by not marrying them, what do you expect to happen in that situation?
So the solution you've been saying all along, I don't see that as the difficulty. I talk about the family structure, uh, two parents raising kids. I think men need to be men. I don't know that they're taught how to be men anymore. I think the empowerment of women, which was
Well,
necessary,
we got that toxic
has
masculinity thing
swung.
going on.
Right, but that's what happens is in order to empower women, we have to diminish men, which doesn't make any sense to me. But that's happened. So what do we need to do? We need to reestablish the institution of families. We need to bring God back into the story. We need to be independent, not depending on government for everything. So those are the solutions. But how do we get from where we are now to there? That's the depressing part, right? Because there's not much motivation, maybe. There's certainly not a pathway. I think that charismatic leaders that can really speak to these things, that really drive people to do things. But this is going to take a generational shift because we've had a couple generations, if not more than a couple, that have steered us down this path. I don't know if it's a natural progression of a world power like ours. When you have a great nation like this, there's kind of that curve. I don't know, but I think all three of us would agree that we need to get back to the roots of what this nation was about. That's what we talk about in different ways almost every single week.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, Tim, but right now,
the old days, but we need to go back to the fundamental principles of what we are as a society. And what we have right now from the liberal left, the very far liberal left, is not only do they disagree with us, but they want to destroy that. To what end?
So Tim, because to be honest with you, I mean, you're closer to this thing than I am, because you are in government,
Right.
But I watched the Democratic debate. There is no far left. There's just left, and it's way out there. I'm watching Joe. I'm watching Joe Biden. He looks like a big dinosaur up there, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel bad for him, right? Because the party that he left 3 years ago is not the party that he's dealing with today. I mean, he's actually being attacked for making a comment in which he said that it was troubling to see so many women having to go into the workforce because it was going to lead to the decline of the nuclear family. And they attacked him.
He said that?
He said that.
Good for him. So
that.
who would have? So I didn't watch the debate because I hate watching those debates. Period.
It's comedic relief. You've got to watch it.
But what amazed me coming out of that is would you have said 4 years ago that the Democrats are going to trash former President Barack Obama? I mean, wouldn't you have said 4 years ago, who's the leader of the ultra liberals? It'd be President Obama, right? Well, he's looking like, I mean, he's pushing Bill Clinton all the way into, practically, conservatism sort of thing in comparison. If they're rejecting Barack Obama, where exactly are they going to go?
Well, unfortunately, I think that if Clinton were to run today, he almost would have to be a Republican. I mean that's the sad part about it. And that has to do with the left moving so far left, and unfortunately, the right following right along with them.
But now hold on a second, because I agree. By the way, I don't want to say, I want to. You're touching on something that's amazing. We think of the political paradigm as a sliding scale, or we're on a continuum, right and left, and where are you on that continuum? I didn't read the whole comment, but I saw the word Antifa. Okay, when you think of Antifa, and maybe it's not the exact same, but you think of these people that are predominantly running the Democrat Party right now, these socialists, that's like jumping the track. That's not just pushing it a little bit further to the left. And you're right, in the Democrat Party, we see it here in the state of Minnesota, and we definitely see it in Washington. Um, the these You're right, it isn't extreme left anymore, because that's where they're at. What happened? Where did that come from? I honestly want to know. I don't
Tim, I believe that they've been there all along.
But why are they carrying the day now?
This because this progressive movement has been there. You have people like you know what? Say what you will about AOC or AOC and Elon Omar. I'm thankful to God for them, though. I am. I'm thankful to God.
They're being honest with us. That's
because they have been the first Democrats that have been honest with us for a long time. And AOC came out and she said, we don't have time to beat around the bush anymore. We need to progress. We need progressive change. And so they're not slow boating it anymore. They're just coming out and they're throwing it all out on the table.
But let me punctuate this with people that I know, and I won't name names here in Minnesota, mostly because people won't know them. But even 2 years ago, in the Democrat Party in the Minnesota House, there is a block of extremely liberal. The one I like to give an example of is he represents North Minneapolis, which as you know, anyone in Minnesota knows that's hotbed of not only minorities, but very liberal beliefs. He ran for Minneapolis mayor last time, and one of his "when I become mayor, I will" was to take the guns out of the hands of the cops. Okay, pretty radical, right? Pretty far left. I can tell you on the House floor, this is Representative Ray Dean. I can give his name, it's fine. Representative Ray Dean couldn't even keep pace with the stuff that we were hearing from some of these people. He was looking like a moderate. There's a couple others that I would have considered 2 years ago to be kind of like, my most liberal people. And they pale in, like, they're old school liberal. The things they talk about are so, 2014.
Well,
something is really, really steered in a strange direction, and I'm curious to know what's going on.
Well, I think that there's been this huge push to encourage groupthink, right? And to get rid of individuality. Because at this point, let's be very clear, these people don't want a democracy anymore. They don't even want socialism. The goal is communism. That is the goal. Because regardless of what they're saying, regardless of what we're seeing, the ideas come straight out of Marxism. And this idea that if you look this way, if you live in this neighborhood, if you go to school or go to church here, you have to think like this. And if you don't, get out. We don't want you here anymore. And that's the attitude, right? And you can't be an individual anymore. You can't be a free thinker anymore, because if you are, you're going to be kicked right out of the club, right? And so that's where we're at. So I feel like that's where it has to start, because it's with the mind.
Why is it carrying the day now when it wasn't before? They are carrying the agenda.
they're carrying the agenda because do you really think that Nancy Pelosi and that group that wasn't the I'm sorry, I guess I'm a little bit more I'm a little less forgiving than some. I believe this is what they wanted. They've been calling themselves progressives.
Well,
We knew what Saul Alinsky, we've read the book, right? We know what the end goal is of
I think
progressivism.
this is what they wanted, but this isn't what they expected. You get what I'm saying? I think Pelosi's holding on for dear life.
Well, and she really is, but you know what? I thank God, because what's going to happen, and I'm saying it right here, what's going to happen is President Trump is going to be reelected. He's going to be reelected because we're actually seeing moderates are like, I can't vote for that. When you're saying that you want to do away with the border, now, just for a minute, let's envision this. You want to take the guns out of the hands of Americans. But in the neighborhoods where a lot of people look like me, the police are very reluctant to go into those neighborhoods for fear of, one, being ambushed, two, being accused of doing something to protect themselves or to save their own life. Now, I'm not for over policing. We've had that discussion here before, so don't attack me on the idea of that I'm pro police officer. No, I'm not pro anything. I'm pro America. But you want to take my guns away, and then you want to tell me that I should just let the police do their job. But 2 weeks ago, you were telling me that police hate brown and black people and wanted to kill us all. So you want to disarm me, and it's for me to sit back and expect that the police are gonna protect me? I mean, with that shooting down in was it Parkland? The Parkland shooting? Wasn't the officer sitting outside while kids were in there being slaughtered? Wasn't he told to stand down? Couldn't he have gone in there and possibly saved some lives? But he sat outside. Soder, you remember that story, don't you?
Yeah, I remember it. It was very sad. Made me want to fire them all.
But let me ask you this. Had the teachers been armed, do you think that possibly something could have been done sooner?
I think if the students had been armed, something could have been done sooner.
All right, we're not going all on. Oh, you can always leave it to Soder to arm the felons and arm the kids. Yeah, I don't see anything good coming out of that. But
when I said a gun in every hand, I meant every hand.
Yeah. Hey, can we silence his mic? Tim, you got the button over there? We're gonna get kicked off of YouTube. No, all jokes to the side. But then I watch the debate, and they're asked point blank, "Do you want to get rid of private health care?" Yes, they want it. Everyone want to get rid of private health care. Okay, would your health care plan give health care to illegal immigrants? Every last one of them, their hand went up. Okay, so let's back up here real quick. You're going to give health care to illegal immigrants, so non-tax paying citizens. We're going to give health care to everybody. We're going to take guns out of the hands of everyone. So somehow we're going to find the money to pay for enough police officers to protect everyone. And we're going to pay for health care for everyone in the United States, whether they pay taxes or not. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. Are you guys hearing anything different?
No, that's what I hear. It scares me.
It's not what you're hearing, it's what they're trying to do. Now, I don't mean to be cute with that, but get into that understanding. The reason why they're pushing all this stuff is what you've been saying all along, and I see some of the comments here saying all along, is that they're trying to drive us towards a government-run system on everything. So let me give you a couple quick examples. So healthcare is one of them. Healthcare is not working. Government needs to come in and control it. It's also a huge, what is it? It was 1/6 of our economy 20 years ago. It's probably a higher percentage now. Healthcare is a huge portion. Government controls a chunk of the economy. Here in Minnesota, I'm going to give you a couple different examples, kind of jumping around to make my point. Okay, we live in farmland, right? All three of us do.
Yeah.
Okay, and we believe in people that own property should have the ability to do what they want with their property, right? We all agree on that, right? But we all share the air, we all share the water. So they come in and they say, well, we think, can't prove it by the way, but we think that you're making our water dirty. So we need to come in and control what you do with your land because of that water. There's people that talk about clean water that really have no clue what they're talking about. Okay, everyone wants clean water. We have clean water. Okay, I'm not saying there aren't examples of pollution by all means.
Well,
okay?
Trump polluted the water in Flint, though.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So there is such a thing as paying attention to clean water, but if all we talk about is we need to make it cleaner, here's the rules we need to put on those landowners. You can't do this, you can't do that. It's government controlling landowners. I believe that the United States, we have lots of rights that make who we are, but the ones that really made us a great nation was two fundamental things. Number one, the ability to own real property, not a king owning it and letting us use it. Okay.
I don't know about that one, buddy.
The right to own.
I don't pay my taxes.
The right to own your own property and the right to protect it.
Well, but Tim, that kind of ended bad for my grandfather, though.
But that's what I'm saying. That's where the progression is, though. Okay.
I was just saying define property.
Oh. No, I said real property, meaning land.
Are you saying that black people aren't real?
Okay, you guys can have all the fun you want. I'm the one that ends up in a clip down the road, okay?
Hey,
I made a salient point, and you have to go on that rabbit trail.
No, I will support you. You'll be the first.
So everything that you see happening is about, and again, you guys know this because this is what frustrates you the most. It's about more control. Why are we taxed to death? You know, and they say, well, we need to provide. One of the things that Democrats say here in Minnesota is, well, people want these services. We have to pay for them. It's actually kind of a true statement and a dynamic here in Minnesota. People expect certain things and they do cost money. But by taxing us and filtering it through the government, there's rules attached with how you get your stuff. You can only do it if you do A, B, C, and D. And who's telling you what to do A, B, C, and D? Bureaucracy is. That's the problem. So when you say, how do we fix this? We as individuals, somehow collectively as a society, need to be willing to break out of that cycle. Even if it causes some pain, we need to do it.
Well, the interesting part is I got into this discussion with as far as the healthcare thing. I mean, on its base level, it sounds good. It really does, doesn't it? I mean, we want everyone to be able to go to the doctor. I mean, don't you want everyone to be able to go to the doctor, Tim?
Yes.
I mean, so yeah, you want everyone to be able to get good health care. Don't you want everyone to be able to get good health care, Tim?
So, but let's look at Minnesota. Before Obamacare, there was about 5% of the population of Minnesota that just fell through the cracks, meaning they didn't have access to health care for one thing or another. So you do the Affordable Care Act, require everyone to be insured, and we do all these subsidies and everything. You know what the percentage of people that were not getting healthcare? About 5 or 6%.
Right.
Okay. And actually, in some ways, it made it more difficult. We had a good system here in Minnesota before with the way that we took care of people who fell through the cracks, and a lot of those were taken away with Obamacare. But no one seems to want to talk about those facts, that none of that worked. Well, even what you're saying, we want to have everyone be able to get it. There's actually more strings for a person who may not have health insurance to get that affordable health care than there was before, when they were supposedly improved it. So I don't buy that's what they're trying to do. I don't buy it at all. I think they want to control it. That's what they want to do.
Bingo. That is 100% the case. And that's the scary part about it, is it's all about control. Because guess what, Tim? If I get you on my healthcare plan, what do you have to do in order to keep that healthcare plan? You've got to keep voting for me, right? Because if you vote my opponent in, you're going to lose your healthcare plan. And so it's all about control. It's about having more and more control and being so intertwined in our lives that you have to continue to give me. I'm going to scratch your back, you scratch mine. I'm going to continue to give you what you want. But the problem is people aren't really paying attention to is this. Okay, it sounds great. We're going to go ahead and we're going to give you health care. But what are you eating? How many times are you going to the gym? What are you feeding your kids? You're eating out. You're not eating McDonald's, are you? I mean, at that point, I mean, look at what they've done in Canada. A pack of cigarettes is going to cost you about $20 a pack, because hey, you're not going to smoke and have us taking care of your health care. Which, hey, you know what? I don't personally smoke, so sure, why not stick it to the smokers? But it's got unintended consequences that come down the line. We can't say that we're going to have all these things and not have an idea of how we're going to pay for them, or the unintended consequences that come as a result. You're absolutely correct. When we first moved to Minnesota, my wife was pregnant. We couldn't go out and get healthcare coverage because I have my own business. So we had to go through the state, and we actually had to purchase the high risk insurance program. You're familiar with that?
MCHA. Yep.
And you know what? It was great. I mean, it was expensive. It cost us what, $600 a month for a $3,000 deductible for our entire family, and that was really, really expensive for us at the time, right? Mm-hmm. I would love to have those deductibles again. I would love to have those premiums again, because once the government decided they were going to fix it for us, they priced us way, way out of it at that point. And so we have to start talking about free market solutions. And you know, I enjoyed having Jeremy on the show a couple weeks ago, and just discussing that, because I believe that the solution to these things is.
Oh, we need a cough button.
Sorry. The solution. Yeah, I'm gonna make it. I got to stop smoking those expensive cigarettes.
Do I need to find a new black friend or something? Are you dying on me?
Good luck. You can't replace me. You can't replace me. Try it.
No, you can't.
Good Lord broke the mold. But we've got to do a better job of actually talking about the free market solutions, because I'm telling you, the media right now is unhinged. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact they feel like they are losing. They feel they're losing the battle. They're losing it. People, look at the ratings for those mainstream shows. Don Lemon, Rachel Maddow, these people who once were the king of night. What's McDonald? What's his name? Anyway, I don't watch the clown, but anyway, these people, their ratings are absolutely in the toilet. Why? Because people are finding other ways or other sources to be able to get the truth. But it's absolutely ridiculous that we are in a situation by which we're seeing the American people lied to on a daily basis, and not given any hope. And I feel like that's the problem that we have. When people have no hope, they resort to doing some really, really terrible things, and I feel like that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So if we're not going to be the party of hope, then what's the point?
Time to go wig.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah, you first.
Where's that mute button?
Yeah, hey, it's over on your side. It's over on your side.
Just kidding. Well, that's how you spell Soder. I've been spelling it Soder.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You
Yeah.
realize I was talking about the wigs, right?
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You kind of piqued Tim's interest there when you started talking about wigs.
Nope, don't need the hair. It's too much of a hassle.
So, but yeah, so that's we have to be able to have legit conversations and actually be able to be honest about what it is that these people are really doing. And that's what concerns me, though, right? What concerns me is that next year, 2020, when Trump wins the election, where do we go from there? Do people finally say, okay, well, I accept that this is the will of my fellow Americans? I mean, or is it going to be determined by, is it going to have to be like a Reagan type victory? Is it going to have to be 49 states? I mean, how
no,
does
he wins. None of this is going to end. It's just going to continue on. And I've said the only thing that's going to be crazier than this presidential election is the next presidential election if Trump wins. That's going to be one for the ages. It's going to be crazy. The issue that you're touching on with that is, we talk about the swamp. We talk about the bubble that they live in. There really is one of the challenges we have is the government system is really disconnected from the American people. That's what I think produced President Trump, was that disconnect. People were saying, you know what? He's not one of them. He's saying things that I've been yelling all along that no one seems to be listening to. I'm going to bring him in. But I don't know that Washington is going to just shake up from that. I think they're going to have to listen more and more. If they lose elections because people aren't listening to them, they're going to be, in theory, hopefully forced to listen. Here again, so I go back to your question an hour ago, and he says, "What are we going to do? What do we have to do?" It sounds so quaint and so old-fashioned almost, but it's true. The people have to step up. When Trump was elected president, I said, you know what? The voter still believes that they have the vote, and they took this country back. They got to keep doing it. They have to show up and they have to vote. They have to speak their mind. They have to support candidates that they support. This is all the things in our republic that we have got to do. My event that we talked about, my normal fundraising at the winery was 35 to 45 people. I had 80 people show up at a city park that wasn't even publicly advertised. They had to figure out where it was at by talking to other people. And we almost doubled, actually, you could probably say doubled the number of people. And the people in that room, I told them, I said, what you're doing tonight is awesome. This speaks loudly, but you got to keep doing it through this next election. You have to support your candidates. You have, for state level races, we talk about help with the parades, help with door knocking, write a check for $50. And I'm sure that people say, well, what good is that going to do? What is it going to do? It's going to steer things in the right direction. You've got to step up. Everyone, this is kind kind of a juncture in our nation. I think it's been going on now for about 8 to 10 years. We are deciding what we are going to be. And we're going to have to decide, and we're going to have to work hard for it. I'm putting myself on mute because dogs are going to bark in about 10 seconds. Jacob's home.
Uh-oh. So Soder, did you get a chance to watch the debates at all?
A little bit. I've been rather distracted lately with things.
Distracted with which things?
Oh, we didn't start to show off with that.
We didn't. We went
right into ranting.
Yeah. And there's a little Soder. So everybody, we'd like everyone to join us in.
Oh dear, you just doxed him.
A little Soder?
Yeah, you did.
Sorry. Tell him I said sorry.
Poor guy starts out life like this. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's another Soder in the world now.
Oh, so heaven help the world.
Well, you know what? He looks just like you, buddy.
Really? You think so?
I think so. He looks just like you. So, congratulations on the new one, Tim. If you just hold on, you got another voter coming your way.
Yeah, you gotta stay in office though.
Yeah, so if some people get what they want, maybe they can vote sooner rather than later too.
Oh yeah,
we should just allow everyone. If you're alive, you
next year and help him mark that ballot off.
That's right.
There you go. He can make his mark. That'd be fantastic. So yeah. So I was actually have you seen the movie Free State of Jones?
Never even heard of it.
You got to watch this movie. It's fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Unfortunately,
it's like on some VHS you got, or what exactly is it?
No, it's actually newer than that. It's I tell you what, it's right up there with Braveheart. And
really? That's saying something for me.
That's saying something, right?
What's it called?
Free State of Jones. So
throw it in the comment section. So
I'm doing that right now.
Okay, so
where do you find it?
It's on. I watched it the other night on Amazon. So
okay. Sure.
It's on Amazon.
And
I'd like to, if anybody in the chat has seen it, I'd like to hear what you guys' thoughts are on the movie. But to kind of give you a background, Tim.
2016.
There was a group of people in the South who protested the war because they saw the Revolutionary War, Civil War. Golly, wrong war. The Civil War is being fought by people who had no lands, who had no slaves, who didn't have a dog in the fight, essentially, and they were fighting and giving their lives to essentially to protect the rights of rich Southern plantation owners, right? And so, long story short, Matthew McConaughey and a bunch of hey buddy, how you doing?
Want to say hi?
Hi.
How's it going?
Hold on. He can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear?
Sure.
You doing okay?
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
I was tractor pulling.
Oh, you were tractor pulling, huh? How'd you do? You do pretty good?
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that's exciting. You gonna help your dad on the show? He needs some help.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bud. Okay. There we go. He loves his microphones. Thank you very much, Q. Get back on task. Sorry.
Yeah. So essentially, they were fighting for the. It ends up with they were fighting for the rights of the blacks and the whites in this county in Alabama to live together, right? To live together in community, and it was actually pretty neat to watch and to see. um, and just to see how amazing, um, when people are given equal freedoms and the government gets out of the way, how people can determine for themselves. But essentially, just over the last couple of days, I've been on Twitter. I've been kind of attacked, been called the N word quite a bit from liberals, and I thought that only conservatives used the N word, and and they didn't have Sandy Beige passes either, Soder. So they were using, they were they were unauthorized to use it. So the interesting part to me was that I thought, essentially, because I made a comment about black people leaving the Democrat plantation, talked about black people leaving the Democrat plantation and voting red and voting for conservatism. I was attacked because of that, and I said, essentially, we're kind of going back to the original the original sin of the Democrat Party against black people, right? I mean, isn't that why the KKK was formed to begin with? Was to suppress the black vote for voting Republican, right? And so I was surprised because this movie came out during the Obama era, and they showed that these black people were super proud to be able to go and cast their ballot for the Republican Party. And I thought that part of the movie would probably get cut out, but it wasn't. So it was kind of neat to watch.
I'll have to check
I'll
it
have
out.
to look it up.
Yeah, there you go. So make sure you watch it with Soder Jr. There, Soder. And tell him Uncle Quentin said hi.
I will. I'll probably see him tomorrow.
Well, very cool. So, so Tim, so I know you've got to get back to some family stuff, and I don't want to keep you away from that for too long. So, when's the next event coming up?
Next event? You mean my event?
Yeah, when's your next?
You got to have a follow-up event to this one. I mean, it was so successful.
Yeah, no, we'll see. I'm not trying to be coy. I don't have anything planned, but I think this kind of set in motion, certainly having another event, it'll probably be a different kind of event. When the trouble first started up with Steve, his comment, Representative Drazkowski's comment was, I'm here to educate on what we're doing. So bring in dissenters. I'll explain what we're doing, because what they're doing is they're just asking for an investigation, and he presents the work that's been found to point to this point. It should be. So maybe we can have an open town hall, which would be healthy. Well, as long as people are going to be respectful.
You tell him that Out of the Darkness is very much interested in having him on the show.
He agreed to that, by the way. We were going to get to that. He doesn't have the fancy technology we do. It's going to have to probably be on his phone, at least for now.
You tell him I will bring the show to him if need be. But didn't I just see him on Tucker Carlson?
Yeah, he's been on Tucker Carlson 4 or 5 times, and he was on Laura Ingraham about a week ago. He's been delivering his message of what he's doing to quite a few people.
So I was I was doing a little bit of private research and just kind of looking into this. Now the allegation, and I saw, and maybe you can say if this is true or not, but essentially, in order to gain citizenship, there's allegation out there that Ilhan Omar married her brother in order to gain citizenship sooner, or something.
No, not her. So that's one of the allegations. She has a history of just flaunting the law, and it started with, simply enough, Minnesota campaign finance law for being a state representative. Minnesota Campaign Finance Board cited her, I believe it was 3 times in the first year and a half she was in office. Now understand, I've been in 5 years, I've never been cited. Steve Jaskowski's been in 14 years, he's never been cited. Okay, so this is pretty radical stuff. So the work that he did to that brought forward a lot of investigation, a lot of testimony that raised questions about her IRS tax filings, because I don't have the names. And actually, what I'll do is I'll email to you all the pertinent information that Steve presented the other night in written form. I'll send it to you and you'll see. But there's 2 men, and I don't remember their last names, but one she was married to, but the other one she had a marital relationship with, is the best way to explain it. And there's a track record of these questions. So when you talk about she's married to her brother, it looked like it expedited his ability to come over here. That's what it was. And then they also got financial aid at North Dakota State University. And there is at the very least a lot of incongruities with how things are supposed to be that raise enough questions that there should be an investigation. So there's no proof that she married her brother. That's kind of a nice little soundbite. But there is an incredible amount of evidence and mounting evidence that suggests it, definitely.
So let me get this straight. So she's wanting to see the president's tax returns, but she's the actual tax cheat. Allegedly.
Yeah, probably.
That's
yeah. I mean, it suggests that that was. Yeah, I'll send you that information because it'll educate you up. I don't want to start saying things that aren't exactly the way that it is. I can tell you that Steve is very well versed in this. He's been working for quite some time. So there's when you run for office, there's a statement of economic interest, meaning I have shares in this, and there's levels. You don't have to say, I borrowed someone $50 and I have to write that down. But if you have a significant investment in a company or whatever, you have to state that. And she wasn't doing that until after she was elected into Congress, and they kind of let her get away with that. But that told a lot of things of where she's been doing some of this stuff. I'm jumping all over the place. I'll just send you the information. You can look at it and then you can talk with Steve. It'll be a great interview.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I know that a lot of the folks on the show would definitely be looking forward to hearing from Steve. I was really impressed to see him on Tucker Carlson. He brought up some interesting things. Of course, I was in the middle of doing stuff and doing dad stuff and things like that. So I wasn't able to put 100% of my attention into it. But for what I caught, very well-spoken guy. So I would love to get him on the show. And I think the more people that can hear the truth, the better. I really do.
Well, he went and wrote his congresswoman. Oh shoot, I always forget her name right now. The new congresswoman out in CD2. Who's that again? Ernst. Joni. What's her name? Anyway,
Joni Erickson.
No, I'm just having a brain fart here. But anyway, he wrote her and asked for an ethics investigation in Congress, and she basically says, well, I'm not going to request it, but you can. So he not only
Angie
requested
Craig.
it. Huh?
Angie Craig.
Angie Craig, thank you. She said, you can request one. So not only did he request one, but people listening to this can go to omartruth.com, and it's a petition for people to say, we want an ethics. I'm going to look up and see. Last time I checked, there's over 40,000 signatures on there.
Wow.
I'll check it out for you. The power of having a computer while we're talking. But you can sign a petition. Yeah, there's 44,170 signatures so far.
Wow,
I'll write it down.
that's huge.
But what they're saying is they aren't literally omartruth.com, and what Steve is saying is simply investigate. There is a lot of evidence there. And this kind of goes to some of the distrust that we have with government right now. Here's a woman elected, duly elected into Congress, and there's all sorts of questions as to her ethical behavior while in office. And the only thing you get in return is you're a racist if you say anything. Well, actually, I'd say you're a racist if you don't say anything, because then you're saying someone is above the law because of their race.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, it's incredibly frustrating to me. I mean, we're seeing a two-tiered system, and I'm not. I guess that's the issue that I'm having with a lot of this, is that, you know, we hear a lot of it, and you can not engage in this because I don't want to get you in trouble. So you can just sit there and discuss. But, you know, for example, with this women's rights issue, I feel that women's rights, minority rights, Black Lives Matter, all these things, I love it. I'm all for everyone should have equal rights. I don't think that's. I don't think anybody on this show would disagree with that. The problem is that I'm seeing a lot of people looking for rights, but they're not looking for equal rights. They're looking for superior rights. Right? That just seems to be the push here, right? Is they're not looking to be treated just like everyone else. They're looking to be treated better than others. And we can't have a functioning society when we are treating some people like second-class citizens because they look different, right? Using the old definition of racism or the new definition of racism. That's true. The new definition of racism comes to, because I was called a racist this week, and I was asked to prove my Blackness. I thought a selfie would do, but yeah, it didn't work. So I guess I'm not Black enough. So I am now a racist. So essentially, the new version of racist is anyone who does not agree with liberal ideology is a racist. So I think the new super race, Soder, is liberalism.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's the new super race. And it's really, really sad because there's a lot of great people who have been suckered into this whole idea that that they have to think a certain way, they have to act a certain way, but they have no idea why they're acting that way or any idea why they're being that way. And so to make a full circle, I feel that she should be subject to the same level of scrutiny as Trump is or anyone else is. If you're going to investigate one, investigate the other. In a true investigation, not this cockamamie idea of an investigation that we gave Hillary Clinton. But to back up a little bit, it was fantastic to watch the Democrats absolutely rail on Joe Biden about the amount of people that the Obama administration deported. And Cory Booker actually went so far as to say, you guys deported more people in your first 2 years than Trump has in 3 years. I thought that was fantastic. I mean, the only people that tell the truth are drunk people and angry people, right? And children, of course. So I thought it was fantastic. So I look forward to the next few debates. You guys should definitely check it out. because you'll get to see lunacy at its finest. So, but Soder, I know you've got to probably get some rest since you are a new father. And Tim, I saw you're not a new father, but you're a father nonetheless. And so thank you guys for joining the show. I know it's been a while since we got together. We got to do this more often. I definitely look forward to seeing you guys next week. Same time, same place. Are we going to try to get Steve on for next week?
Yeah, I'll see him on Tuesday. And I talked to him about it the other night and he goes, yeah, I'll join. So we just kind of have to execute. I'm just telling you, he for sure doesn't have a webcam. Getting him up on his computer, I can kind of show him, because his computer will have a camera. And I'll do the best that I can to get him set up, but he's
remember
not
headphones.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's going to be one of the what sounds like a small challenge, but that might be a bigger challenge. But I'll work with them on it and get something figured out. Because I know your audience would really appreciate listening to them.
Sure. No, that would be fantastic, and love to hear what's going on and what changes are being made. But guys, hey, thank you guys so much for joining the show. Again, thank you for tuning in Out of the Darkness. We are looking to do this more, guys. We are getting close. We're getting very, very close. We're about I know it sounds like a lot. We're about 80,000 minutes 80,000 minutes away from our 240,000 our minute, our 4,000 hour threshold for YouTube. So we want to get more content out to you guys. Definitely support the show. Subscribe to the show if you're not subscribed. Push that little button there, and let us hear from you. I love hearing what you guys think. Some guys agree, some guys don't. But that's fine. This isn't a show only for the people who agree. This is a show for people who are Americans, who are not Americans, who are freedom minded. But anyone who wants a voice, or anyone who has a voice, we want to hear it, as long as you are well thought out, and you definitely want to and you want to get out good ideas. We're all about good ideas. So thank you guys for making it. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. And we will look forward to seeing you guys next week, same time, same place. You guys have a wonderful day. Be blessed.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.